election of last month. So yeah, I don't want to do that. Okay, thank you, Professor.
Start off, Prof. Over to you, Professor Marotta.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Today we are going to, the presentation is about the International Criminal Day, if that's correct, because I have to, or that's correct, right, Professor?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, today we are going to discuss the International Law Day. We are having the presence of experts as Professor Milton Award. He's a PhD and founder director of International Center for the ICRS Africa. Also, we have the presence of Professor Denakompon Tishobo. He's Juris Summa Doctor. He's doing his PhD in the US.
He's a doctor already?
He's already a doctor. Okay, he's already a PhD. Yes, he's a Juris Summa Doctor. That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. He's from. He's a professor in Case Western Reserve School of Law in the USA. Also, we have the presence of Brian Rabamfane. He's an attorney. He works also as a researcher for the Center for Criminal Justice Africa. And we will have in a couple of minutes the companion of Professor Dwarkanath Tripathi. He's a professor of international criminal law in India. At the same time, Professor Rama Guadamela, also from India. Professor Frimpon. He is a professor at the Yale Law School, and Alessandro Lanciotti and Maria Mercedes Pisani from Italy will join us also in this lecture. Thank you, Professor. I pass the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Sorry, okay, I'm with you. Sorry. Thank you, Professor Giovanni Marotta. Marotta is one of the directors of the Center for International Criminal Justice, and is based in America. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. And thank you for your appearance, Professor Dinapon Chober, who has been introduced to you. And thank you as well, and welcome Attorney Brian Kutlo, who is a lawyer in Botswana. We expect to have Professor Tripathi and a number of other professors. So today, viewers, I'm actually in Johannesburg, Sandton in Johannesburg in South Africa, where there's a lot of turmoil, but it's under control right now. All right, viewers and listeners, wherever you are, good morning, good evening, and we welcome you to this session. This is a very important day for us within the realm of international criminal justice. You'll recall that exactly 23 years ago, that is, just give me a minute. I'm having a bit of a problem with my system here. Sorry. Okay. Today marks exactly 23 years since the Rome Statute was adopted by 120 states, and 7 who declined, and about 21 abstained during the process in Rome, Italy. So it's a very critical day for us within the realm of international criminal justice. During that adoption, the adoption actually meant that it brought into existence the Rome Statute, which in effect established the International Criminal Court. A couple of years later, on the 1st of January 2002, the Rome Statute was ultimately ratified and came into effect. That is, in other words, it took force. It came into force, coming into force and taking effect at the same thing in law, actually, just for the sake of our lay listeners. So by coming into force, the Rome Statute effectively created the International Criminal Court. So today, it is a pleasure to have the experts here to be able to express their views, having a retrospective trajectory in terms of what happened to bring the ICC in place. So without wasting time, I'll be able to welcome any of our panelists who may want to make a contribution. Particularly, we are going to discuss, this session is going to discuss the aspects, the three critical aspects of the structure of the ICC. Basically, we're going to look at the functions of the ICC in a retrospective trajectory. We're going to look at the jurisdiction of the ICC, and we'll be able also to look at the structure. Have I talked about the structure, function, and jurisdiction? The first question would be, looking at having a retrospective glance at the operations of the ICC, what would you consider? Just a minute, I'm very sorry for that staccato. I wish to recognize within our panelists, we have two very distinguished professors who are actually delegates to the Rome Statute conference, or the Rome conference in Italy. And they're our colleagues. One of them is Professor Dr. Alessandra Lanciotti, who is a professor of international law in Italy. It's a pleasure and an honor to have her with us as one of our expert panelists. And we recognize their role that they played as delegates and active participants within the Rome conference during that formulation of the Rome Statute. Another one who is part of our expert panelists is Professor Dr. Maria Mercedes Pisani, whom all of you know. She also participated in the deliberations of the Rome conference that yielded the Rome Statute. So we salute them and recognize their gallant participation, although they're not with us here today. Okay, having said that, the first question, we'll plunge straight into the first question. Looking at the trajectory, having that retrospective trajectory, what would you consider to have been the major impact of the ICC and the Rome Statute on the international criminal justice globally? Welcome. Any of you would be able to make a contribution. Thank you.
I can go.
Okay, Professor Chobro. We said Professor Chobro is a professor, as indicated, at Case Western Reserve University School of Law. He's an adjunct professor there, and it's a pleasure to have you. Proceed, sir.
Thank you, Professor Milton. That's an interesting question. ICC has been created to put end to atrocity crimes in the world. But the question today, ICC succeed to do that? That's the important question today. If we look at the past, the different prosecution, how many alleged perpetrators have been convicted or condemned after prosecution? After trial? There's another question. So I think I will not discourage that organization. They do well, they have a good vision to put end to violence and international crimes, but we need to do more. We need to do more because ICC had difficult to deter the international crime today because of the article, his article 77 and 78. We can look at what happened in a Lubanga case, Ogwen case, Ogwen who committed a lot of crimes, international crimes, have been condemned for 30-year sentence. As human rights defender, we don't want to promote a death penalty in international justice. No, we hate that. Or we can promote the life sentence. So ICC need to review the statute, some of articles of the statute to deter those crimes from the world. It's my view.
Thank you, Prof. let's have another position. Thank you for that contribution. Let's move slightly ahead. We've looked at the achievements. We are trying to look at the milestones so far. But at the same time, I would want us to examine what the major challenges so far have been. What have been the major challenges posed by the situations in the globally towards the operations of the ICC? Any of you, Dr. Marotta, Professor Marotta, or Mr. Brian, if any of you are ready?
Yes, we are ready.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, I pass the floor to to Brian.
Thank you very much, Professor Milton. I think I'm going to pose my challenges, or the challenges, I'm going to pose them in the form of questions so that we can engage from that. Firstly, it is going to be the Assembly of State Parties. They are the ones that govern the budget, or that approve the budget of the International Criminal Court. And I think we have to move from that perspective and interrogate whether or not they have done their duty in a good way, so that the International Criminal Court can subsequently engage in robust condemnation of war crimes and other crimes that are in the Rome Statute. Then secondly, I'm going to be dealing with, or posing the question of jurisdiction. The Rome Statute gives power to 3 people to invoke the jurisdiction of the of the International Criminal Court, being firstly the Office of the Prosecutor, secondly the United Security Council, and thirdly the state parties. So the question is, do those who are given power to invoke these powers or this jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, have they done enough to, in fact, execute the mandate of the International Criminal Court? Then my third question is going to be based on the ratification of the statute, because from what we have seen, there are always states that are not party to the international or the Rome Statute, but there are always actors in what the International Criminal Court seems to be deterring. So I think I'll finish there.
Okay, those are very, very pertinent and eruditely placed questions. Very pertinent indeed, you'll agree. So let's turn to our panelists. Professor Marotta, you probably want to have something. You feel that these challenges are entirely not insurmountable, I believe.
Yes.
What's your view, Prof?
Yes, I think that the challenges that we have right now, it's going to be, for example, part of an international crime. I think it's going to be very easily to start is what happened with all these in all the countries that they decided to do a curfew related to trying to control the COVID-19. However, they didn't do the right exams, the right testings. They didn't but at the time all the vaccination they need, and now all the population start dying. So from that start, we will have like from a perspective of negligence, a type of genocide. For example, in Peru, they have died more than 200,000 people. And it was not for the spread of the disease. It was because a bad decision of measurements and stupidity related to how to control the pandemic. We have a start point of there. Also, what I see, and I have been doing some research since the last 10 years, is related to cybercrime, on all the crimes that affect human rights from cybercrime. So cybercrime is going to be a very challenging crime to be considered in the International Criminal Court of in their own statute. For example, cybercrime related to human trafficking, or indeed human trafficking related to sex slavery or labor slavery, or for using children for any kind of terrorist groups. At the same time, we have the problem that affects all around the globe. It's drug smuggling. I mean, that's and also I guess in the next session of the UN they'll need to approach also this crime. For example, drug smuggling, drug lords, for example, in Mexico, in Colombia. For example, in Mexico, it's worse than Afghanistan or Iraq. It's amazing all the human rights violations related to the core of that it's around the problem of narcotics in Mexico. So or in other countries in Central America like Honduras or Nicaragua. So I think the start point we need to think that the crimes that we need to see how this is going to evolve. So we need to, I think the important thing here is we need to spread, I mean, the spread how other crimes that will be internationally, because the picture of our geopolitics has changed, and we need to see more broadly. I guess that this pandemic has shown us that any country that will have the means for doing, I don't know, any kind of virus or any kind of biological weapon that can destroy a country or the world in minutes. So that's another. So that kind of how do you say, lex scripta, the principle of nullum criminal sine lege should be with these new kind of crimes that they need to be considered in the Rome Statute from here to the future. So that's what I think is going to be the new challenge. And as Brian has told us before, the countries that will lead the Security Council, they will need to see these threats, because there are real threats, and we see every day all the campaigns against human trafficking and cyber crime related to sex slavery, or for using kids in other countries for doing terrorist attacks. So I think that's the new challenge for the Rome Statute and for the work of the court. From the prosecutor office, we are going to see more. I mean, we're going to see more work from with this new with the new prosecutor Khan. We are going to see a more proactive department of the prosecutor office, as it should work, because with the other two, they were doing, but the perception of many of us, and also from the civil society, was very slowly. Yes.
I'm not interrupting. Yes. I want you to continue, but
no problem. Thank you, Professor.
The issue of the new ICC prosecutor, I was going to raise the issue to you because I know you've been having a lot of interest in that office. Just proceed. Just proceed. Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yes. So I think there's going to be more proaction from the prosecutor office, and I guess that he will also handle it like in a very diplomatic way. I mean, I think he's going to achieve many of his goals in a very sensible way that many others general prosecutors of the two previous one couldn't done before. I mean, you need to be. I mean, it's a key. I mean, a prosecutor from the head of the prosecutor office, he needs to be not only a lawyer, a very good one, a criminal one, to how to do the investigations and how to do all his work. At the same time, he needs to be a very diplomatic, sensible thinking guy, because the way he needs to approach each country. So I guess that this guy, I mean, Khan is going to approach the US under this Biden administration in a very different way to do the investigations related to international crimes committed by the US armed forces in Iraq or in Afghanistan. So I think it's going to be, he's going to be very clever how to approach that. Maybe in a couple of years we're going to see some kind of success over there. So that's the new floor that the ICC needs direction, and also with the election of the judges that are going to come in the coming years. I think they will need also to have this spread. They need to spread a little bit more the way we are dealing with the administration of the court. So, I mean, it's going to be like a re-engineering. I mean, it's good. It's over the past going to be 20 years, 22 years, or 24. I don't remember how. Yeah, 24 years is going to be from 1998 to now. I mean, it's for international court. I think it's for us it's a lot of years, but for the court itself, it's not. So I mean, they are doing the right work, the right path, and this kind of adjustments that they are going to be needed. So that's my point of view about the new challenges for the ICC. Thank you, Professor Milton.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Marotta. Giovanni Marotta is a specialist in international criminal law. He is actually widely researched in areas of international humanitarian law as well. And he's been able to practice international criminal law in various jurisdictions. He went to universities in Europe, Spain. He's been to actually Case Reserve University as well for courses. He's based in America. Now, thank you very much. Let's get to this point. You've given impetus on addressing the issue of, I would say, jurisdiction of the court. We know that at the inception of the court, under Article 5 crimes essentially revolved around we have genocide, which was identified, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. Indeed, as Professor Marotta indicated, with time, there's been need to be able to contextualize the relevance and circumstances and applications of these particular crimes. And you've raised a number of very pertinent issues relating to other crimes that have been mooted. Professor Dina Kopp, Professor Chobor, as we said, is also a professor in the United States. What is your view about the jurisdiction of the court, and particularly about the comprehensiveness or relevance of the crimes that are stipulated, the Rome Statute crimes, what are ordinarily called Article 5 crimes? What do you have to tell us about, do you have any view following what Dr. Marotta had introduced? Yes, Prof.
Thank you, Professor Milton. Yes, but before touch the Article 5, I will mention something Professor Giovanni said. The principle of complementarity is very important for that court. How is a diplomatic issue, we know that, but how to negotiate with the state and no party to ICC Rome Statute to join, that is very important. Because the ICC can always need the Security Council a resolution decision on some situation before prosecute. You know, before prosecuting states, for example, look at a Afghanistan situation. United States. That's the weakness. War crimes there. But ICC is not empowered to prosecute those crimes. with international crimes falling in his jurisdiction. That's a big issue, and we need to think about it. Because United States is not a state part to ICC. So if any state committed or commit any international crime, no state is not a member of that organization, so they cannot be prosecuted. They escape from prosecution. That's a big challenge. The second challenge is about the Article 5 you're talking about. The Article 5, when the ICC or the founding members need to review the definition of some of the crimes. For example, the crime of aggression. Today, those crimes are committed by non-state actors, the terrorists. That Marata just underlined that, the terrorists. We are facing the terrorists today. That's a crime. The crime of aggression almost committed by those non-state actors. But the definition in the Rome Statute not allow the prosecutor office to prosecute those criminals, because they say they might have be in control in position to exercise control over state or political directed military action before being prosecuted. So what about those people? That's another issue. I think about Article 5. Specifically, the crime of aggression need to be reviewed to be expanded to non-state actors. But the genocide crimes also need to be reviewed, because etymologically, I notice is from the meaning of that word, the term, first of all, the term has been created by Raphael Lemkin, the Polish lawyer Raphael Lemkin. It's a genocide, mean race, race from Greek language, aside mean killing from Latin. But the definition is not clear, because those crimes are not only committed on race or religion. That's why I created the groupicide. Soon I will promote it. I will promote that term to cover the genocide side, because people are targeted because of their philosophy, opinion, political crimes, specific political crimes. I saw in my original country in Benin. You have different opinion. If you have different opinion, or you are against the government, or the government, the person who is present down for power now, you can be prosecuted or you can be attacked anyway. Sometimes you can be killed.
Yeah, Prof, I think Prof is giving, thank you very much for that. Sorry, I'm not cutting you short. It's only we have about 8 minutes left and I want us to squeeze. Professor Chobro is a professor who has been actively involved. Actually, he was engaged in training his students in the ICC moot competition, and they led actually. They were leading students globally. So thank you very much, Professor Chobro. Now, Professor, let's get back to Professor Marotta to deal with something that Mr. Rampane raised, which was very critical. The ASP, the Assembly of State Parties. That was one area that in my doctoral research I focused on and recommended. I made far-reaching recommendations for the reform to ensure the legal and institutional framework that would make the ASP effective. So, but even Brian yourself, if you might have something to say, what really do you think should be done about what structural changes, what institutional framework changes should be introduced with respect to the ASP? Brian or Professor Marotta, anybody with an idea to share.
Professor, could you please, I didn't get you because I have some static on my line. Could you repeat the question, please?
All right. I said Mr. Brian raised a very important issue about the Assembly of State Parties.
Okay.
With regard to limitation of resources and other, constraints in terms of ensuring the objectives of the Rome Statute. What are your views of this, based on the retrospective glance on what the ICC has performed for the past 23 years?
Well,
clear now?
I go. Yes.
Just in 2 minutes, because we are left.
Yes, related to that, I think country is the big ones. I mean, I guess that that we're going to enter in a couple of months all the world. I think at the end of the year, we're going to return to some kind of normality. Probably the approach that we'll take in the next Assembly Party is going to see how it's not the word, it's how to give more budget for in the international human rights law. Probably it will go away, because what I saw last year, and I was affected related with when I was working with International Criminal Court against child kidnapping. That was it's an NGO related to the rights of the child. When the pandemic started, this organization received funds from the public sector. So the first thing they do, they put on hold the funds because they didn't know what was going to happen. So now that we have a broadly picture that we are going to get vaccinated and we're going to start, Professor Cho is already vaccinated, so he's. But other yes, but other people around the globe are not. So the idea is that for November, December, I guess the 60% of the world is going to be vaccinated. So then the 40% it's going to be much narrower and much easier. So from that, I think the money related to funding from states and also from the private sector is going to run again. So as Brian told us about the budget and the Assembly of State, they need to be more wise how they will use the money and how they're going to invest it. Because what I see here is that if we do like a research, probably it's a good research for a PhD that is related to law and economics. How they allocated that resources in the past 20 years. So we need to make a change so we can have an effective it was more like a microeconomics related to projects. Very specific projects that can hold many NGOs trying to support the work of, for example, the work of the International Criminal Court. So the kind of stuff. So it's more like very specifics. So the more macro we do the work in the human rights, is going to affect positive to other people that are involved in the violation of the kind of human rights. That's what I see that in the next General Assembly they will have to do, and they will need more guys from sector so they can help and aid how to allocate these resources. So I mean it's going to be a very sharp way to attack the human rights international law problems, and we can solve it in a more short way that we have been doing in the past 24 years.
Thank you very much.
You.
We are left with 3 minutes. I think it would be unfair to leave this discussion without touching the current issue, the burning issue of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In just 2 minutes, can we have someone touch on that with respect to the current situation as International Criminal Justice Day? Anything on
Brian?
Let's have Brian.
Thank you very, very much. I would say to some certain extent, the International Criminal Court can be applauded for actually determining that they have jurisdiction to investigate possibly the war crime that happened in Palestine or in West Gaza. So problem now is going to become the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court in actually prosecuting people who are responsible, who orchestrated the crimes, because as we all know that Israel is not a state party to the Rome Statute. So but we know that if you look at the last attacks that lasted, was it 9 days? A lot of rockets were shot from the Israelites than from Hamas. So actually, the people who are orchestrating these war crimes happen to be in a state where it's not a state party to the Rome Statute. So it's going to be very interesting. Secondly, we're going to yet to see whether or not people normally say the International Criminal
Mr. Brian,
is just sorry.
Your video is off. Yeah, good. Go on.
Okay. Yes. To say that we are yet to see whether or not it's just a toothless bulldog or just going to remove those kidnaps and investigate and prosecute the crimes in Palestine. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot. We are left with 1 minute. I want to thank our panelists, expert panelists. Many thanks to you, Professor Dr. Giovanni Marotta, an expert in international criminal law. You've seen for yourself. Expert, Professor Dr. Dina Chobro. Thank you very much, Professor. And thank you, Attorney Brian Kutlo, for all your contribution. To our viewers all over the world, we thank you also for your time, and we hope that you're gonna be with us in the next session that we shall have. Thank you and have a fabulous International Criminal Justice Day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Just a few seconds ago, I teach International Criminal Court, Moot Court.
Sorry?
Okay.
Yeah. I say I teach the International Criminal Court, Moot Court.
Yes, that is what we said.
Yes.
That is
Yes,
what we
that's a
said.
good-
Yeah,
that's a very good
you played a very
discussion.
good team that won. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Prof.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Bye-bye,
weekend.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye.